Hello and welcome to the This Works For Me Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Fernpate Watson. I am the director of the Faculty Development Center at Murray State University. I'm very excited about today's topic because our guest today, Dr. Tony Piña, will be providing us with some strategies to help us maintain our scholarship while we're in leadership position. Dr. Piña, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Watson.
So good to have you today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Well, certainly. I am Associate Provost for Teaching and Learning at Sullivan University, just north of you in Louisville, Kentucky, where I oversee instructional design, online course development, general education, faculty development, and a host of other really fun things that I get to do. Originally from California, my career has taken my family and me to Arizona, Utah, Illinois, and a little over a decade ago to Kentucky. And we love it here. I have been in the field of educational technology for more than 30 years. And I really love what I do, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to participate in this virtual summit.
Yes, and I am personally grateful for this opportunity to have you as our guest today. It is a privilege because I know that you have a wealth of experience and you'll just be sharing just a little part of it today. In fact, the topic of our conversation today is maintaining your scholarship while in a leadership position. How did you get interested in this topic?
Well, in my travels and in the situation where I was heading up educational technology and distance education at my institutions, I found that while there's a lot of good material out there for instructional designers as far as building online courses, faculty for teaching online courses, online students, etc., there really wasn't a whole lot out there to help me, someone who was overseeing online courses and programs and institutional areas. So, so really it's because of the lack of scholarship that I really got interested in this. Some years ago when I was, before I decided to pursue my own doctoral studies, and a colleague of mine said that we were both in the same ed tech master's program, and he said, well, I'm not going to get an ed tech doctorate. And I said, really, why not? And he said, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a doctorate in leadership and management because it's the people up the food chain who make the decisions that affect faculty and instructional designers and all. He says, we don't have enough people in those positions who have our background. So I want to be one of those positions. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then when I went to pursue my doctoral studies in educational technology, one of my professors said, you know, Tony, you really need to keep up with scholarship. And I said, well, what if I ended up in administration? And she said, no, especially if you end up in administration. We don't have enough administrators who publish and present and write and all of that, and you can make a real good contribution. So I remembered those things and ended up actually following my friend into a doctoral program, different doctoral program, but in administration and leadership rather than ed tech with an ed tech concentration. But that fit the trajectory. And so I became real interested in resources and everything that could help me do what I do better. And then after I'd been doing it for a while and realizing that they're not out there, I decided to start doing it.
Wow. So could you just tell us a little bit about some of the different scholarly activities that you pursued since you became an administrator?
Sure. And the interesting thing was I had actually earlier been a faculty member, but I really didn't start writing until I became an administrator. And so currently I am the author of a book and the lead editor or editor of 5 other books. So I've done 6 published books. I have over 70 articles and book chapters and other professional writings, most of those in peer-reviewed venues. I've guest edited 2 scholarly journals. I'm on the editorial review board of 4 scholarly journals, and I have done over 200 conference presentations, including several keynote presentations. I've served on multiple dissertation committees, and I've written grants and those types of things, all of which have really enhanced my career.
So since as an administrator, you're not faced with the situation that we in higher education call publish or perish. As a matter of fact, it seems as if I would say it's publish or flourish for you. Why do you pursue scholarly activities? I know you said you mentioned advice that you got from a mentor earlier, but I think other people got advice like that. Why do you continue to pursue the scholarly activities?
Well, it's true. Because as an administrator, I don't have to worry about tenure committees and things like that. There are a few reasons why I do this. One is because I'm not under a publish or perish kind of situation, I get to publish what I want, when I want, and in the venues that I want. So I don't have a list of, if you only publish in these journals, it counts toward your tenure. I publish in the journals where I think that my work fits best. And, they're peer-reviewed scholarly journals, but I get to choose which ones rather than having a department that only tells me that I can do those. Plus, the bottom line is it makes me a better administrator. That's also why I teach. As I'm a full-time administrator, I have no teaching load. So I actually, ever since I became an administrator, I have taught as an adjunct for my institutions because it helps me to know what's going on the front lines of my institution. Scholarship helps me know what goes on the front lines outside my institution. What are the best practices? And when I contribute to scholarship through publishing and presenting, I get feedback from the best minds in the field. And so I get to see what they're doing. They get to see what I'm doing. I get feedback on what's good, and I end up being more valuable to my institution because I'm on top of my field. The other thing is it allows me to connect with my faculty. I'm much more credible when I have a curriculum vitae that looks more like what my faculty's CV look like. And I do the same thing that they do. So we have that connection. I totally get it. And I have the credibility because they know that I don't just practice it, I preach it. And I really enjoy working with colleagues. And I just have a lot of fun. It invigorates me. It gives me more knowledge. It keeps me growing. It helps me in my quest to be an online learner. And it also helps me to feel like I'm actually contributing something back to the field and to the knowledge base. So that's why I do it.
Yeah. So Dr. Piña, you have done so much, 6 books, 70 articles, 220 conference presentation, and I could go on and on. But I'm sure you had to do that first publication. You had to do that first presentation. How did you get started? Because I think sometimes that's a challenge for people, getting that first publication. How did you get started?
Well, I started with the presentations before I started with the publications. And that's helpful because my publications tend to be based on things that I've presented first. So what I'll do is I'll formulate it. I will go out and present it at a conference and I'll get the feedback. And so I know where my strengths and weaknesses are. And it's sort of like when you send that article out and you get the peer review. Well, I do that live. And so then I know what to write. And so the very first one, and this is an important thing, that same professor who taught me, her name is Dr. Wilhelmina Savigny. She just recently retired from Arizona State University. She co-presented with my first conference presentation at AECT way back in 1992. And we presented together. I wrote the presentation, she critiqued it, we delivered it. And then she said, okay, now you can do your own. And so I did it the next year and sent off my two proposals, and they were both accepted, and I just kept going. I did a few minor presentation or minor publications during that time, but really I was an ed tech professional. I was a practitioner. I was heading up educational technology at my institution. And so I really didn't get started heavily with publication until I was in my late 40s and after I had finished my dissertation. In fact, my first major publications were based on my dissertation, which is a really good way to start because for one thing, you already have a whole bunch of data and you've been working on this thing for the last couple of years. You know that really well. Now, dissertations are formatted differently than journal articles, so you do have to rewrite it, but all the content's there. And so I was fortunate in that I kind of planned my dissertation around doing journal articles. So I got my first 3 substantial peer-reviewed publications from the work I did on my dissertation and sent them out, and they were all accepted. And so I said, well, now I'm going to write on this that I had just presented on, and I sent it out and it was accepted. And so I've just kept going since then. And I've just been very fortunate in that I've gotten great reviews on my articles as far as how to make them better. And I would go and I would revise them, and then I would submit them, and they would get published. You know, you don't always get published on your first try. But if you take in all of that good feedback from the peer reviewers and apply it, then that usually works. And so, so that was really it. And the reason that I mention that is it's never too late. You know, I have some of my students who are saying, you know, I'm approaching 40 and I haven't published anything. And I said, when I was your age, I had only published a couple of minor articles, but I didn't get started until, you know, until well into my 40s. So it's all good.
That's a good reminder. And I think it's encouraging for some of our viewers. And what you said earlier about, you know, getting the feedback from the peer reviewers and all of that, plus all of your administrative duties, you have a lot on your plate. How do you find the time and the motivation to do all of this scholarly work?
Well, that's the like they say, the $64,000 question, because administrators are busy and we get caught up in a lot of minutia and things like that. Plus, it usually isn't a required part of our job. So it takes intrinsic motivation rather than extrinsic, because we don't always get rewarded by our institutions by doing this. So the first thing and the most important is it needs to be a personal priority. It needs to be a personal goal. It needs to be something that you want to do, not because it's expected, but something that you just are interested and really want to do. And what I found is when we make things priorities, we find the time. There are always time for things that we find personally very important. So I just make that one of my priorities. The other thing, of course, is time management. You have to find a time that works for you. For me, that time, there's usually two times that work best. One is early in the morning, before I start opening my emails, before I know I'm going to get phone calls, when things are a little calmer. And so sometimes I'll just come in even earlier so that I know I'll have a little time to do some reading and some research and some writing. And then also in the afternoons after my last meeting, if I still have a few minutes or if a meeting cancels, I try to take advantage of that window of time also to do some writing, because those are kind of stolen moments. Deadlines are very important. Now that's one of the nice things. If you're doing a book chapter or if you're doing a peer-reviewed journal article, there are deadlines. You have to have it submitted. You have to have the first draft submitted by this time and all that. Those deadlines are very important to me because they keep me on task. And if there aren't explicit deadlines, then I formulate my own deadlines and I write it down and I put it in my calendar that, you know, I need to have this part written by this date. And so it's usually that date comes and I end up writing it on that date. But that's okay because I have the deadline set. The other thing is, don't try to write an entire article in one sitting. It's not going to happen. So what you do is you do a little bit at a time. Even if you only get one paragraph or a couple of sentences out in a day, as long as you're writing a little bit each day, it's like exercise. As long as you're doing a little bit each day, it's going to accumulate. And so write just a little bit. And then the other thing that is just really important for me is collaborate. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. When you work on projects together, then you can split the work. Plus, you also have another person there who you're working with, so you have to get your part done. So that becomes another motivating factor. And again, as an administrator, it doesn't really matter to me if I am first author or second author or third author, because I don't have to do this at all. And I certainly don't have to meet a tenure requirement for having X number as first authors. So collaborate with good people, and it shares the load and it makes it easier. It makes it possible in many cases for somebody to actually do this.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier. It sounds very simple. You said, make it a priority by starting early in the morning. I just want to tease that point out a little bit, because you said, before you check your email, that sounds easier said than done to some people, especially if you're an administrator. Like, how would you feel if something really terrible was happening and you were just doing your research and not checking your email? You know.
Well, here's what I do. When I get in there, I open up my Outlook. If I have no messages from either my provost, who's my direct boss, or my president, then I go and I do my other things first.
Okay. Yeah.
So if the email is from somebody above the food chain of me, then of course I go to that first. But if it's not that, then as far as I'm concerned, I have my time where I'm doing this. And because it is research that is directly related to my job, it is part of my job. It's not a separate thing. And that's the other thing. It's not like I have my administrative job here and I have my research here. I have to research things every day. I don't publish all of those because some of those are research that I need to do regarding, how many, do we have an issue with student retention over here? Or I have a complaint that I have to go and deal with, or there's a technical issue that I have to address. All of those require research.
Right.
Not necessarily scholarly research, but research. And so I lump in scholarly research as an essential part of my job. So I put it in as a job task.
Yeah. Wow, you shared a lot today. And I'm just wondering, what would you say to our viewers who have really resonated with some of the things that you shared, but they're still a bit hesitant to get into some scholarly activities, to pursue scholarly activities? What would you say to them? What would be some first steps that they could take?
Sure. Well, first, let me address the why to do it. One, it will keep you at the forefront of your field. It will make you more valuable to your institution because you not only know what's going on inside, you also know what's going out in the field at other institutions, et cetera. That's also why I would recommend for anybody to also serve on visiting accreditation teams to go out to other campuses or to other institutions and see how they operate. We could probably do another virtual summit on just that, but the opportunity to know what the best practices are, what the state of the art is, what's going on out there, and what could benefit your institution. Also the collaboration of writing with other people helps you to develop your professional networks. It's a really good thing. The other thing is if you deal at all with faculty, it increases your credibility with the faculty. It just does, because you now have a common language and you have a common set of experiences that you can draw from. You as an administrator, you go and you talk about the latest study or latest research or latest paper that you're writing. They're going to connect and click with you and probably tell you about what they're doing too. And who knows, you may find some common things and you may find collaborators within your own institution. So those are some of the reasons why. Let me tell you how to get started. First things first, pick a mentor who can work with you on your first works. Because a lot of people will just say, I want to do this. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to write about. I don't know what I know and all. I don't know if what I know will be helpful for anybody. Get somebody who has done this. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to get my colleagues starting on their own research or my doctoral students starting on our own research by working with them. You know, I did a big study with 4 of my doctoral students on comparing the Doctor of Business Administration degree with the PhD in business. And is a PhD and DBA, are they the same? And what are the similarities? What are the differences? What about the dissertations? Got 3 publications out of that with doctoral students. And so find a mentor, collaborate with other people, because again, it shrinks the amount of load that is required for you. Be a second or a third author on your first couple of papers. Once you've done it, I'll tell you, once you've done it a couple of times, then you know how to do it. You get the drill and you can do it yourself and mentor others. Eat this elephant one bite at a time. Again, don't try to sit down and write the whole thing yourself. Just do a little piece at a time, little piece at a time. Go out on EBSCOhost, Academic Search Premier, Cyclit, whichever. Research a couple of articles, say, oh, this is good, and bring that reference in and save it, and then you can use it for later. Just do it a little bit at a time. Do it with other people, and then you'll reach a point where you're comfortable enough to do it by yourself and to do it with others, with you as the lead. And finally, find topics that you're passionate about. Find topics that are fun. That's what I do. Again, I publish what I want. I either see a problem that I'm facing and I start looking around and say, has anybody addressed this? No? Okay, then I'm going to do it. And that's how my books got written, is I needed some help on something. I couldn't find the books. And so I contacted a bunch of my colleagues or put out a call for chapters and said, I want to write a book, or I want to edit a book on this. I'll write a few of the chapters, but I need other colleagues to help write all the rest. And so so I've done that 6 times, and it's been a lot of fun. We've won a couple of book awards, and it's been really great. And so the other thing, well, yeah, I'll stop there.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And in the final minute or so, would you be able to leave our viewers with a closing encouragement or call to action?
Yes. When you get the journal in the mail, or when you log online to the journal and you see the article and your name is on it, that's really cool. When you get in the mail and you open up the box and there's the book and your name is on the cover, that's really cool. When you're reading something, when you're reading an article that you're interested in, and you see your name in the in-text citation, they're citing you. It is just an amazing feeling to know that what you're doing is making a difference. And when you're working with your colleagues, when somebody cites you and all, it is just a feeling of satisfaction, a feeling of accomplishment. And for me, this field has been very good to me for a very long time. And so I feel like by doing this work and hopefully expanding the knowledge base, I can give back a little bit in gratitude for all of the things that I've been given and for the blessings that I've received by being in this particular profession of higher ed and in the field of educational technology and distance learning. So I guarantee you it'll be challenging, but it will be fun.
Wow, well said. Dr. Piña, you have shared so much today, and I just want to thank you for giving us such practical strategies, and you encouraged us and you challenged us along the way. And I really like what you said towards the end. One of the things you said is that really in the final analysis, we want to know that we're making a difference. And that's what this is all about. It's not so much how many articles we can have or how many presentations. It's really about, are we making a difference? And when we see that publication, when we see our work being cited because other people are doing it, that really is also so important. So I want to thank you for taking the time to share with our viewers today. And to our viewers, I just want to thank you for listening to this conversation, and I encourage you to share this conversation with others. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. See you soon.
Thank you, Dr.